Alex, can you buy a self-storage facility without using any of your own money? Well, not only is the answer absolutely, this is a perfect example of how you can get into a storage deal even if you don't have money. One of the common misconceptions, limiting beliefs that I hear from people pretty often is that they need the belief that they need to have a lot of money in order to buy a self-storage facility. And I can tell you firsthand, because this is one of numerous self-storage facilities that I own and operate, facilities that I've operated and sold, even some that I've wholesaled, and I have yet to put any of my own money into the deal. So how do you do that? Well, seller financing is one of my favorite strategies, creative financing, because you can take a deal that may seem overpriced on paper and on the surface, but if you're able to get great seller financing terms, that completely changes the complexity of the deal. I've always said I will, more times than not, give the seller their price as long as I can get my terms. So we'll talk a little bit about seller financing, but here we are. I live in Miami, Florida. This facility is located in Amelia Island. It's 187 units, about 24,000 net rentable square feet. And I want to talk to you about the anatomy of the deal. How did I find this deal? How did I negotiate and structure the seller financing? What were when you think of a SWOT analysis, the strengths, the opportunities, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, I want to walk you through that process and then give you an update as to where we're at with the facility today. I purchased this 3.5 years ago. Okay, I bought this in 2022, and it came off of a simple direct mail campaign. Direct mail has been responsible for a lot of real estate that I've been able to buy throughout the years. I have bought numerous self-storage facilities using simple direct mail campaigns. In fact, if you want, I'm happy to share with you, if you just look in the description below, happy to share with you the same exact letter that I used to land this deal, as well as several others that I've purchased. But back in 22, I had a gentleman that reached out to me, and he said, he called me and said, "Hey, Alex, I got your direct mail letter about our facility in Amelia Island. Are you still interested?" And I said, maybe. So we started talking about the deal. And this was a super, super nice gentleman, very sharp, who he and his sister owned it. They actually bought the facility roughly 15 years prior to that phone call, but that wasn't his core focus. He had another business in another state. He didn't live locally, and they just weren't really optimizing the facility to the best of its ability. One of the things that when I saw it on paper and I started to look at the market here in Amelia Island, I started to look at the competitors, that I quickly realized was that the rates were about half of what they could be. In other words, one of the opportunities, something we call value add, is we will look to buy storage facilities that their rates are here, but when you look at the average of the market street rates, those are here. Now that gap, that delta, represents opportunity. That is how we can purchase a storage facility, go in, increase the rates, and we start adding value, okay? So the whole game here is, how do we increase occupancy? How do we generate more revenue? Which means we're gonna make more money, and that's how we generate cash flow. That's how we build wealth. That's how we improve and increase the overall value of these storage facilities. So anyway, I have a conversation with this gentleman, and I'm looking at the numbers. I think at the time it was generating around $15,000 a month in revenue, and he wanted a certain number. He wanted 2.1 million. And based on the revenue that it was generating, 2.1 million didn't really, in fact, he wanted 2.2 million. And that didn't make a whole lot of sense. And so as I started talking to him, I started to ask him questions about his situation. And one of the things that I quickly realized is that he was concerned about the tax burden. He was concerned that when he sold this property, because he owned it free and clear, they were gonna have a pretty big tax burden. They were gonna have a big tax bill they were gonna have to pay. And the light bulb instantly went off. In fact, one of the questions I always ask sellers is, "Hey, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, if I could get you your price, would you be open to taking the payments over time?" So notice how I didn't use language like seller financing or owner financing. I just said, if I could get you your price, and I'm not sure I could, would you be open to taking payments over time? And to his credit, he was. And so we basically negotiated. He was able to become the bank, and he financed 90% of the purchase price on this storage facility here. I gave him his price, but if I'm gonna give the seller their price, I'm gonna wanna dictate the interest rate, the down payment, and the loan term. Okay, so if you give them their price, it's your terms. If it's your terms, it's their price, and vice versa. And that's what he did. We got 3.25 fixed interest rate with 5 years with an option to extend for an additional year. What was really cool about this is that the facility didn't look like this. This is all brand new siding that we've put over the course of the last couple of years. The facility was actually had a lot of rotted wood. There was a lot of deferred maintenance. In other words, what we call capital expenditures. The money that we had to put into the storage facility to really spruce it up, make it look a lot better. So as a result of that, what I was able to do was structure no payments for an entire year. And so we came in and the facility was generating roughly $15,000 a month in revenue. We got seller financing terms. We amortized it over 35 years. Usually in self-storage, you amortize a loan over 20 or 25 years. And what that did was it increased our monthly cash flow, okay? So not only did we not have payments, but we got incredible seller finance terms. And we came in and we started doing the work. So again, there's still quite a few things we need to do. It didn't have this white siding, so we put brand new white siding. We painted all the doors orange. We probably put roughly $150,000 into that deal. Now, what was interesting about this is that I didn't have the $150,000 to get into the deal. So he financed 90% of the purchase price, and I got a private lender that came in for the 10% down payment money, plus the money that we were gonna put into the facility. I paid that private lender 10% interest only on that loan, and then I got him paid off within the year. And so another deal that we were able to do without using any money out of my pocket. Now, one thing that's super important is I didn't say you don't need money. It just doesn't have to be your money. So if you have any limiting beliefs about, hey, can I buy a storage facility like this without using my money? I am living proof. Not only here at Amelia, but I've bought several facilities in Mississippi doing the same thing. I've been involved in other partnerships and other deals where I was able to carve out equity, some ownership and cash flow in the deal without having to fund it myself. So as a recap, direct mail campaign landed us the phone call. Seller financing got us the deal because he was stuck on his price. He was worried about the tax burden. And you might ask yourself, well, hey, Alex, why would the seller finance and give you no payments for a year, give you a super low fixed interest rate for 5 years, amortize it over 35 years? And it's a great question. There's several answers to it. Number one, he actually now generates more money passively, literally mailbox money, because every single month on the first of the month, he gets an ACH deposit from us. He's generating more money passively via that ACH than he was managing, operating the facility. And here's the thing. He no longer has to worry about the operations of the business, the taxes, the insurance, the maintenance, the lawn, the customers. He's not dealing with any of that stuff. He is now the bank. He's the lender. So it was truly a win-win scenario. Not just win-win for him and for me, but also win-win for the customers, because now we're taking care of them. We're servicing them. Now we have certain amenities they didn't have before. Why else would a seller or an owner consider seller financing? Well, aside from the fact that now they don't have to have that huge capital gains tax, aside from the fact that they don't have to manage and operate it remotely, they don't have to worry about all these other things like operations. So there's a lot of reasons sellers would consider seller financing. The key is you have to ask the question and just ask, hey, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, if I were able to get you your price, would you consider taking payments over time? This is a facility that we've been able to add significant value to throughout the years. We were able to come in basically double the rates, okay? We were able to introduce fee income like tenant protection, lock fees, gate fees, admin fees, 24/7 access fee. And when you're able to add those fees, what does it do? You generate more revenue, it increases the bottom line, and the value of this asset, the value of a storage facility, is determined by the net operating income. Okay, so happy hunting. Go out there. If you have any limiting beliefs about the fact that can you, I'm telling you, you can do this. It's not difficult. You got to believe in yourself. Obviously, you got to take massive imperfect action. We have gotten deals from cold calling, direct mail, driving for dollars. We're going to have a whole separate series on that. So with that being said, if I can serve you in any way, reach out, and I hope you've gotten a lot of value out of this video.